Hi, I am your host, Danielle Smith.
And my name's Danny Tivalu, and welcome to our podcast.
It's Glow Time.
We'd like to acknowledge the traditional custodians of this land that we meet upon today, the Yugambeh and Komameri people, paying our respects to the elders past, present and emerging, acknowledging that this always was and always will be Aboriginal land. Hello, my wonderful people, and welcome to our very first interview for It's Glow Time. And you get to hear myself, Danny Tivalu, and interview the lovely and amazing Danielle Smith. I've been very fortunate to know Danielle Smith for just over maybe 2 years, almost 2 years now. And we met actually at a Wim Hof event. Danielle Smith is an incredible breath coach, Wim Hof instructor. She's one of the kindest souls I know. She's worked from people from mothers through to movie stars, and is like just spreading life and love, and really inspires a lot of people to make really meaningful change in their lives. So welcome, co-host Danielle.
Oh, well, thank you. That was a very beautiful intro. I'm blushing.
Yes, a beautiful intro for a beautiful lady. I'm not trying to crack on you. I'm taken.
Yeah. Thank you. I feel the same about you.
So to start with, I know last episode we kind of spoke a little bit about ourselves, but I just think it's so cool you're a Wim Hof instructor. So I thought we'd maybe explore that first of all, or maybe if you'd like to give us a bit of background again as to who you are and what you do and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, perfect. So yeah, I'm a Wim Hof instructor. I was fortunate enough to go over to Europe and train with Wim himself. And yeah, I'm just so grateful to have found the method because, you know, I used to work in corporate. So I was a really stressed out person, and anxious, and didn't really know how to handle stress, and which led to my own health issues, which caused me to quit my job and then, you know, go on this journey of self-healing and discovery. And I really feel like the Wim Hof method was the missing piece of the puzzle that I'd been searching for years, because it teaches you how to improve your stress response and really teaches you about your nervous system. And so yeah, I am so fortunate to have found it. And it's just gives you like tangible tools. Like once you've learned the method, you can take it home and, you know, do it yourself. You don't need to be around a practitioner all the time. Like you're taught it, and it gives you a tool set to be able to you know, call on when you need it. And yeah, it's just such a magical method, I suppose. It's magic. But yeah, there's 3 pillars to the Wim Hof method. There's breath work, the cold exposure, and discipline and commitment, because we've proven that these methods work, but we have to choose to actually do them, which is one of the hardest pillars. And I always like to think of it, another 4th pillar is about love and connection, because it forces you to connect to yourself and to the present moment, especially when you're in the ice bath, because you're not worrying about anything else. You're just focused and connected to the moment and to your breath. And so it really enhances and harnesses that deep connection with yourself. And when you have a deep connection with yourself, you're able to connect on a deeper levels with others as well.
Yeah, I'm so glad you like explained the pillars of the Wim Hof method, because I was going to ask you to elaborate further. And the Wim Hof method is named after which amazing man as well?
Wim Hof himself. He's a Dutch man. And yeah, he's just doing wonderful things in the world. Like he's had, you know, his own struggles and, you know, things that he's had to deal with on a personal level. And his message is just around love and connection and nature as well. Like, you know, we live in this modern world where we're so disconnected from being out in nature. And so the doing, you know, outdoor cold exposure, you know, creates that connection back into nature, and is a great teacher. And yeah, he practices what he preaches as well. And he's some people might have seen him on different podcasts and things, and what you hear and on the podcast and when you meet him in real life, he's just this beautiful bundle of love and energy. And so he's just such a legend. Love him.
And I really admire like all the work he does and like the good he spreads in the world. He's a really, really good human.
Yeah, he just wants everyone to be happy, healthy, and stronger. Like, that's his message. Like, that's what he wants everyone to have the ability to do. And we all have the capacity to connect into those feelings, but because we're stressed out, we activate our constant fight or flight mode, which causes us to be, dysregulated and, aren't able to, regulate or self-soothe ourselves. And so we can't access these states of happiness because we spiral out of control because we've lost connection to our own bodily systems. And so by bringing us back to being able to, have control over these systems and, connect back into our innate wisdom of our body, it's just a really cool thing to be able to do.
Yeah. And I know you've told me this, but you had quite a unique experience for your first ever ice bath and like initiation into Wim Hof. Do you want to share that with the listeners?
Yeah, well, I stumbled across the Vice documentary about Wim Hof and watched it, and I was just, wow, this guy's so cool. Like, I'd love to, explore more. And so I Googled like workshops and things, and it just so happened like 2 weeks later, Wim Hof himself was in the Gold Coast. And so my first ever breathing experience in ice bath was actually with Wim Hof himself.
With the man
himself. With the man himself. And yeah, it was, I can honestly say that after doing it, it was like the first time I'd ever arrived home in my body. Like, I'd realized that I'd just been so out of my, it was like I'd been a passenger in my own life, and doing the breath and then going into the ice bath, it was like I'm home, like I've arrived home. And yeah, I heard he was actually like maybe like two distances of like people away from me, like, using his beautiful angelic voice of, come on, you can do it, let it go. And it was, yes, exactly. It was very inspiring. So yeah, I was fortunate. And then that was just the moment I was like, this is what I want to do. This is what I've been looking for. And then ended up talking to one of the practitioners that was there and asked him about how to become a practitioner. And then they just happened to be taking applications for the academy program. So like the next day I went online and it was just like, I was just, there was just this, there was just this force of like in me that was like, no, this is it. This is what I've been doing. And then everything just fell into line. And got accepted, and then dates worked out for me to be able to go over to Europe and do it all. It was just, it's like it was my destiny. It was meant for me.
Yeah, that's so incredible. And so obviously, you're a Wim Hof instructor, an incredible one as well. But would you like to walk everyone through, obviously that moment, you had that incredible experience, you're like, this is me, this is what I want to do. How does one become a Wim Hof instructor?
So you have to I suppose be in the health and wellness industry in some capacity and have had some sort of like coaching experience or working with people. And then you apply to the academy. So there's a process that you actually have to apply for, and then you have to do some online training. So you have to complete some of the fundamentals program, I think it was I had to do, and then you go over to Europe and you do like a week. First of all, it's like a couple of day training over there, and that's in the Netherlands, and that's at Wim's house. And then you have to come, and so you do like lots of, learn how to run a workshop and like learn and practice, with other instructors that are doing it. And then then you come back, and then you have to watch all these different lectures and, learn about the science and understand all the research papers that they've gone through. And then we had to go back to Poland and do a range of different like cold challenges. Then we had an exam and had to do presentation. And so it was a 12-month process of having to go through it all. And which I really liked, that it was very detailed and in depth, because you felt supported and you learned a lot, and you felt confident that once you were qualified, that you were ready to go and teach people and take people through. It's not just going and doing like, a 2-day course and you're ready. Like, it was very detailed, and you have to get, I think it's like you have to get like 85% pass on your exam to be able to do it.
So not everyone who like applies or even begins the course passes and becomes an instructor.
Yeah, some people failed the written exam, and so they got the opportunity to retake it like after a couple of months. But yeah, they're very strict with making sure that you have the knowledge to be able to explain it and take people through it, because it's like dealing with people like stress, anxiety, and and you're explaining scientific concepts as well, so you need to have the understanding, and then we have to do a resit every year. When there's new information updated, we have to sit an exam every year.
So it's an ongoing, like, are you expected as well to maybe like regularly do readings in line with the method, like to stay current, or is anything like that after?
Yeah, so there's any new literature that gets updated, we get like given, and we have to keep updated with, and then there's each year there's an exam with current information and new information, and making sure that we're maintaining our knowledge.
Wow, that's so interesting. That's really cool. I love how like well vetted it is, and I suppose like regulated.
Yeah, I really like that as well, because it keeps the high value and the high integrity of the method. That it's not just pumping out a bunch of practitioners. It's like you have to invest in it, and you have to really want to do it with time and money and everything. So and so like, I suppose a question that just sprung to mind, because like there's probably some people out there who are just like, yeah, I'd love to do that one day, and I know a lot of people are passionate about the Wim Hof method. But I suppose once you've finished all of that, you've gone through the year of doing all your training and in person and online, what's it like first venturing out as a Wim Hof instructor? Well, I remember the first workshop I ever did, I was like shitting bricks. I was just like, I was so nervous.
Because I don't know, do you want to reveal that you have a bit of a like public speaking thing?
Oh yeah, I used to be so bad at public speaking. I used to have to do this when I first started working at this health retreat that I worked at, called Gwingana. I had to do these like morning announcements on a Monday. And I would be like stuttering and like sweating, because I was in front of like 80 people. No, so not 80 people, 65 people. And yeah, I was just so nervous. And then, I don't know, I decided I can run workshops. This will be fine. Like, I can just do it. And it was almost, but I suppose that's like the beautiful thing about the Wim Hof method, is it's about facing your fear and like stepping in. And so I got caught in this story that I was bad at public speaking, and that was my safety. And so I think going through the whole training process and stepping into being more connected with myself and my emotions and my mindset through the breath and the cold exposure, I feel like that I was able to let go of that story, because even though I was scared and nervous when I was doing the workshop, like I was still able to control my voice. And Kylie, who I run the workshop with, I use her beautiful property and she puts on the beautiful food for us. She was gobsmacked about my ability to deliver, because she used to see me at the morning workshops, the mornings at Gwingana, and she was like, I don't even know if you have seen me speak since then. She's like, I hope she's got it. I trust that she's got it. And so but I think that it comes down to the method because it's all around facing your fears. And
because that's the thing. It's like, man, you get an ice bath. Whew, like it's hard. It's like and then I think some days you can definitely feel stronger when you're feeling really strong in your mind and yourself. It can seem a bit easier, but then the slightest like doubt or shakiness just really comes out, I found in my experience of ice bath. But I suppose
Well,
also
you can't hide anything.
No.
Like it's, you can't lie to yourself when you're in there. It's like you have to be focused, connected, not worrying about anything. And if there is something that's kind of idling underneath, then it shows itself. Or if you're allowing your mind just to wander and not allow your mind to be in control and not you, then it really shows up in the iceberg.
Yeah, that's cool. So I'm going to take a big rewind from here, because we're talking about Danny, the amazing Wim Hof instructor who's spreading light and love around the world. However, you weren't always a Wim Hof instructor. You started out working in the corporate world in Sydney. So can you take us on a little journey from how you started there and became, I suppose, a breathwork coach? Because it's a very interesting story, I feel.
Yeah. Well, it was funny. In high school, I loved massage. And so I used to sit in classes sometimes with girls I went to school with, and I would just massage people's shoulders and stuff. And because I was just so.
You're also very popular.
Definitely.
I'll be, please, Danielle, be my friend. My shoulder's so tight.
And so I was always interested in health and that side of things. But when I finished school, it wasn't really I got told by, I can't remember what teacher it was, but someone advised me. They're like, oh, it's not really a career. It's like a hobby. You can't make money out of it. And so I ended up, going into a.
It's interesting how that's so often within being an athlete, I feel or a creative or massage, it can be misperceived as not really being a career.
And so it was very and so I took their advice, and I ended up starting in event management. And so I worked running events and planning events, and then ended up going into corporate events, and then ended up getting a job doing stuff within banks and then accounting firms in regards to more project management, relationship management type things. And so it was quite high pressure job by the time I got to where I was, doing long hours, running really big projects with the stuff, working with the US office, so lots of different time changes. And it was a lot of pressure, and I thought that that's what I wanted to do, because I suppose I'd inherited this thing from society around this working in a corporate job, that's what success is, doing long hours and wearing that busyness as a badge of honor. But I was so rattled with anxiety and fear of failing and fear of getting things wrong, and I wasn't sleeping. I was drinking heaps of coffee, drinking heaps of alcohol, living on sugar.
And it just downers.
I know. I'm surprised. It was just not being able to regulate myself. I would just, be on high alert all the time. And and it got to the stage where I had no energy, and I just ended up crashing and burning, and I'd realized that I'd never been taught about stress or how to handle it, or there's things around eat well, exercise, but then when you're in such a go into this adrenal fatigue, doing high intensity exercise is actually counterintuitive. And so I really had to ended up having to resign my job, and then having to heal my body from the inside out. And so then I had to figure out how I was going to earn money and also how I was going to heal myself. And so I ended up going back and studying personal training and massage, because I was like, well, that's what's made me happy. That was the job that I the moment that I realized I was happy, I really enjoyed that. And again, that synchronicity of everything just flowed. And so there was an opening to enroll into that particular, time frame of study, with enough time to resign, to give my work enough time to find someone else. And so then just embarked on that, and then worked in massage. And then that was where I became I started to have a curiosity around the diaphragm, which is our main breathing muscle, and really started to look into the link between when someone has a dysfunctional, really tight diaphragm, then they have a really restricted thoracic, which is their spine and their rib cage, and most of the time they were anxious or stressed. And so when I started releasing the diaphragm and started to release like through that, I was like, okay, well, that's one part of the problem, and then noticing that influenced and impacted people's breathing. And so noticing there was a lot of chest breathing, and then that directly, causes stress and anxiety. So then I went on this, journey of discovering functional breathing, about trying to teach people how to breathe better.
It sounds like
as well. And then
vicious circle, like the anxious breath, like chest breathing, because it like literally it's this poor habit that feeds more anxiety, which then creates poorer quality breath.
Yeah, well, because when you're short, sharp breathing, your brain interprets that your body's in danger. So if you're chest breathing, you're actually like stimulating a stress response. And so it's like you get caught in this cycle, because when there's a stress or a trauma, you react, and so then your breathing gets impacted. But then so if you don't correct your breathing, then you develop that habit, and then your brain then interprets that as danger. So then you keep breathing in that way, and you keep producing the stress. And so yeah, it's really interesting. But yeah, so then I just went on studying more around that, and then found the Wim Hof method as well. So and then I started running workshops, running retreats, doing one-on-one sessions. So.
Yeah. And so you mentioned like earlier that you like all of these choices from living in the corporate world, so like working long hours, being busy, like, and as a consequence, like consuming tons of coffee, drinking alcohol, like probably not sleeping as well because of those things. You end up getting sick. So you got adrenal fatigue, or did you want to elaborate more about that?
Yeah, so it was like I had no energy at all, like and then I was like super inflamed, and so I mean there's a lot of people that don't believe that adrenal fatigue exists. So doctors don't really, because there's chronic fatigue, which is that gets diagnosed sometimes, but I didn't have chronic fatigue. But the way I was feeling, it was like a naturopath said to me, oh, it's adrenal fatigue. And so that's when you've just produced so much adrenaline that your body gets depleted, and so you're so tired. And so I went down the path of getting traditional Chinese medicine, and so that really helped me get my energy back. And then just healing my gut as well, because when you're stressed, you can impact your body's ability to absorb nutrients. So I looked at it from a holistic approach. So did the the healing from within your gut, because when you don't have a healthy gut, then they say that majority of your serotonin receptors are in your gut, and so if you have an unhealthy gut, then that can impact your mindset and your emotions. And so looking at that, and then with the traditional Chinese medicine, it was about getting rid of any inflammation within my body, and then meditation, breath work, and finding movement that was helping to nourish my body. So I started with yoga, because when I was working in corporate, I was doing like high intensity workouts. It was just like cardio and
high intensity job, high intensity workout.
And I was like training to do triathlons at that same time as well. So I was doing all this like exorbitant amount of training. But that was like that was what I had inherited as being healthy, of like, oh, all this movement was a way to like manage weight. So I had that story of like, oh, you have to do all these long hours of cardios to maintain a healthy body, whereas now I realize it's like, no, it's all about balance. And so like doing a combination of it all is the magic ratio.
And it would have taken like a lot of courage to decide to, like, obviously like being unwell is a big motivator, but a lot of courage to decide, like, you know what, I'm going to leave the corporate world and change my career. Because how old were you then when you decided, you're like, no, I'm going to change it all?
I was 26, but around the same time, like my dad got diagnosed with renal failure. So it wasn't a hard decision. It was like I got sick and then he was got put into hospital with renal failure, which is like your kidneys stop working. And so he then got put onto dialysis 3 times a week, which is where you sit on a dialysis machine for 6 hours, where your blood gets pumped from your body into the machine to detoxify, because your kidneys stop doing that, and then the blood gets sent back into your body. And so he was his big value was about providing for the family and working hard. And so he was like such a great dad and beautiful provider. And he I don't think he ever took a holiday. Like, I can't remember him ever having time off, because that was just, he wanted to, work and do that for his family. And so when he got sick, he had to also resign because his kidneys were so badly operating that there was no cure for him. And so I saw the impact that it had on him. Like, that's like losing your identity, like when you have that whole that strong work ethic. So it was really hard to see that. And then it was a bit like looking into the future, into a crystal ball, because I had that same workaholic type mentality. And so if I didn't make changes with my own life, then that could be me. So
yeah, I love that analogy
saw it like that
you use. Like, literally, it was like literally like looking into a crystal ball and going, oh wow, like I've got to change now. And so that's why, like, I'm lucky that I probably got some health issues when I did, because I still had time to make changes, whereas he didn't. And so he unfortunately died at 63. That was 2 years ago now, or it'll be 2 years in February. Wow.
And so I like to work in prevention and wellness, opposed to, cure, because if you start with these habits at a younger age and start really prioritizing your health, and knowing that health is actually the strongest value that we should be prioritizing, because you can have all the money in the world, you can have all the things, but if you don't have your health, then life isn't enjoyable, because you're spending all your time and money buying pills or like get doctor's appointments and things. Then what's the point of all of that? So it was a big eye-opener and a big lesson. I'm so grateful to have the time to make the changes so my health is vibrant. And so I just want to make sure that no one else experiences what my dad went through, because it was so sad and horrible to see that at such a young age that he lost his life.
Yeah. Well, you're definitely like inspiring a lot of people and helping a lot of people to make like positive changes. So I've been fortunate enough to like do a few sessions and workshops with you, and like, man, like people's reactions every time after a session, it's really beautiful to be in that space with them. And they talk about like how much it really hits them in like a good way.
I'm so grateful that I can use the, I suppose, heartache that I've experienced from losing my dad, to be able to share that with people, and then to be able to harness that into someone else changing their life for the better.
Like turn a sadness into something a bit more beautiful. And so in Sydney you became a personal trainer, a massage therapist. How then did you get yourself all the way to the Gold Coast?
Well, it's funny, like I wanted to move to the Gold Coast 5 years earlier than what I actually did. But again, I let people talk me out of it. So I think now I'm pretty good at making my own decisions, but I think, just when you're stressed and you have, you feel a bit out of control, I think you are easily swayed into making, like, not standing up for your decisions. And so I got to the point in Sydney where it was just like, oh, I just don't feel connected to the place anymore. And I just felt like it just didn't feel right. I just didn't feel like home. I'd done a stint in New York, and that was just so awesome. I loved it. And then I couldn't figure out a visa to stay there, so I was pretty cut about that. And then got back to Sydney, and then started teaching massage with the Institute of Fitness, and I loved working there. But then I got offered this volunteer program up at a health retreat, like Gwingana, for 6 weeks, where I lived on site just as a volunteer, got to eat all the food and just like help set up activities. And it was in Tallabudgera Valley. And then when I was there, again, that whole synchronicity, there was a massage therapist that had quit suddenly, and so they needed people while I was volunteering up there. They're like, can you massage? So I was like volunteering, but then after my volunteer shifts, I'd go and do a couple of shifts at the spa, and then they offered me a job when I was there. So then I was like, oh, this is all meant to be. So then I came back home. Within 2 weeks, I packed everything up, drove back up to the Gold Coast, found an apartment to live, and then everything just kind of went from there. And then I got introduced to, or I got a lead for the Gold Coast Suns, and then I got offered a job as massage therapist and sports trainer with them as well. And so and then just absolutely love this place. It feels like home. Like I just really connected to it.
And that's pretty cool. You got like offered a job with the Gold Coast Suns straight away, so like the Gold Coast AFL team. That's awesome.
Yeah, it was good. I think it was 4 seasons I was maybe with them for. It was really awesome experience. I loved my time there. It was actually one of the players told me about Wim Hof, because they were doing a 21-day shower challenge, and I was like, oh, okay. And that's how I came about the documentary that I saw, was from one of them. So I'm actually I'm indebted to one of them.
Good karma from them.
Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome. And now you've also, like, obviously you studied the Wim Hof method, and you're a practitioner and guide people through that. You also have done a lot of other trainings in regards to breath work, because Danielle Smith, my friends, is obsessed with the breath. So which other incredible breathwork teachers and coaches have you worked with, and can you maybe like tell us a bit about like why they're so amazing, what they give us in that realm?
So I am qualified in the Oxygen Advantage method, and then also the Buteyko method.
Please
so
explain what each of those are.
So it's all around functional breathing and optimizing performance. And so we look at how to improve your breathing function from a biomechanical level, a biochemical level, and then also like the rate at which you breathe in regards to your breathing volume. And so you do these really easy exercises that help to improve the way that you breathe. And so because the way that we breathe on a regular basis impacts our ability to produce energy, our ability to recover and to restore. And so when we do, certain pranayamas that are, in yoga and things, they're great for, one-offs when you're doing a yoga class, but then it doesn't actually teach you or impact the way that you breathe 23 hours of the rest of the day. And so these techniques really help to, if there is breathing dysfunction, which a lot of the population have breathing dysfunction, which is, breathing dysfunction is mouth breathing or chest breathing, or, breathing, too deeply, like too much, and, breathing where we're just, using our shoulders and our neck and not using our diaphragm. So when we're not breathing properly, that impacts everything on a biochemical and biomechanical level. So these techniques help to address those and to strengthen those functions so that you're not over breathing. Because when we're over breathing, we're impacting our nervous system, our body's ability to handle stress and to be resilient, and our focus. So it's it gives you the background in how to improve that.
And for someone to be breathing optimally, so what would that look like?
6 to 8 breaths per minute is optimal. Breathing into your diaphragm. So your chest and shoulders shouldn't really move that much when we're passively breathing. 80% of the movement comes from the diaphragm, and then it's our rib cage that is expanding to create space for our lungs to expand. And so when you're breathing optimally, it is through your diaphragm and through your ribs. So when you breathe in, your diaphragm contracts and moves down 2 to 3 centimeters, and then that pulls the lungs down, and then that allows the lungs to expand. And then as that's happening, your intercostal muscles between your ribs are contracting and externally rotating to allow your lungs to expand. And so that's where the movement is actually coming from, and that's optimal breathing. So minimal movement up into the chest and the neck, maximum movement through the diaphragm and ribcage area. And you shouldn't actually hear yourself breathe either. So a lot of the time, if you're at rest and you can hear like there's turbulence or sound in your nose, then again, that's, it's breathing's meant to be really like slow, light, and deep into the lower parts of our lungs.
It's so
interesting. And no mouth breathing either, just nasal breathing.
We definitely discussed that in the first episode. No mouth breathers.
Yes, no mouth breathers.
It's just really bad for your health.
It is, yeah. So when you're mouth breathing, what happens is the pH in your mouth changes to become more acidic. So you're more exposed to gum disease and inflammation within the body. Inflammation within the mouth. When you're mouth breathing, also, you're actually dumping out too much carbon dioxide from your body. And so when you're losing too much carbon dioxide from your body, the oxygen that you breathe in won't be released into your cells to produce energy if there's not enough carbon dioxide present within the blood. So we want to make sure that we're nasal breathing to ensure that we have optimal energy.
And what about though when exercising? So if you're doing like vigorous exercise, because I know like I as often as possible try to breathe through my nose when I run, but I often find as I increase the distance, I begin to breathe through my mouth at times as I'm fatiguing. What's your take on that?
So it's harder to breathe through your nose, or it feels harder because there's more resistance that's created. But if you look at it from an energy production perspective, that if you're mouth breathing while you're running and you're dumping out too much of that carbon dioxide, then that oxygen that's in your blood won't be released into your cells to produce energy for you to perform optimally. So although it feels harder at first to nasal breathe, if you can maintain nasal breathing at a higher exertion rate, you're actually going to be able to perform for longer and recover quicker if you nasal breathe.
Yeah, that's really interesting.
So it takes a little while to get used to, because you're physically getting more oxygen in because the mouth is a bigger hole. But when you're talking about producing energy and being able to perform, you're not actually getting the oxygen to the cells. So it feels like you're getting the more air in, which you are, but it's not making its way to your little energy factories within your cells to produce energy for you to perform better. But it takes a little while to get used to. But yeah, if you can try and even just start small, like if you're a runner, say, okay, I'm going to run a bit slower to maintain that nasal breathing to create that. And then when you're nasal breathing as well, you're creating more resistance within the diaphragm. So that's becoming stronger as well. So then you're going to be able to breathe better.
Yeah. That's super fascinating. I just like, the more I've learned about, I suppose, like, doing yoga and Pilates teacher training, just like, and like meditation, breath work is so, and just everyday breathing is so powerful for our health and well-being, and even our mental state, especially, like all of those things combined.
Yeah, it's been so misunderstood and lost, and now it's coming back because it's like, I believe it's the thing that links everything together, because in regards to health, because there's always a big push around nutrition and exercise, but then if you're not breathing properly, then that impacts your stress, that impacts your nervous system, and then if your nervous system is impacted, your body's not actually absorbing the nutrients within your body because you're activating that fight or flight. You're not getting enough rest and relaxation, because when you're in that fight or flight, that cortisol suppresses melatonin, so you're not entering a deep restorative rest. So if we focus on breathing and mastering the art of that, then that helps in every other facet as well.
Yeah, it's really cool. So you've obviously like done a lot of cool things in your life, from changing careers dramatically, not just once but multiple times, living in New York, hiking in the snow in Poland in your underwear to become a Wim Hof instructor. Do you have any other like cool projects you're working on at the moment that you'd like to tell us about?
Yeah, well, at the moment, so I have only really just started sharing this story with people, but I was really overweight as a kid. So I was 100 kilos, but at the age of 12. So I was,
wow.
Yeah, it was pretty big. And so, which led to, things like, bullying, and just like a lot of self-loathing, and a really not a healthy relationship with food. And I felt like I don't want kids to have to go through that. And so I've started writing a series of kids books around around health and wellness, and just as a way of subtly trying to give children little tools and little golden nuggets that we can start introducing into their mindset, because unfortunately you can be a victim of your environment when you're younger, because you don't have the capacity, or your life is a responsibility of someone else, so you are governed by the environment that you're in. And so if we can start to give these, if I can create some, life lessons in a beautiful illustrated kids book, then they can start to maybe unconsciously start to realize that it's cool to be healthy. It's cool to, eat well. It's cool to have a healthy mindset. And so that's the project that I'm working on at the moment, to, hopefully release sometime this year.
Oh, how exciting. Yeah, that's
good.
Like,
I'm really passionate about it. Yeah, I'm really passionate about it, because it was so hard being like a kid that was overweight. Like I remember just like starting to go to just like swimming lessons and swimming carnivals, and I was just so self-conscious, and just being like carrying that extra weight around in my body, it was hard. And just not being able to breathe properly either, carrying that excess weight over. So yeah, it wasn't a fun part of my life, and I don't, I have no resentment for going through it, because I feel like that was my hero's journey of being. I feel like everything that's happened in my life has happened for a reason to get me to this point, and you're not given anything that you can't handle. So I'm grateful for that experience, because I was able to lose weight. So at the age of 12, something clicked in my brain, and I was like, no, this is not the life that I want. This is not healthy. This is not the body that I want. And so I lost 30 kilos over
So you did
months.
That off your own accord at 12?
Yeah.
That's amazing, because not a lot of kids have that much discipline or like self-awareness, or maybe that's maybe a poor choice of words on my part there, but that's amazing to take your own initiative and go, no, I'm changing things.
yeah, I started making my own food and,
Mm.
you know, saying what I wanted to eat, and started reading books and like different recipes. And yeah, and it was going from year 6 into year 7, the start of year 7, that I started to realize like, oh, this isn't right. And then through year 7, no, sorry, it was like, yeah, the end of year 7 that I started to lose weight.
Mm.
And then, yeah, and so I started exercising more, and then, yeah, just eating better. But I unfortunately took it too far, because had I had developed this fear around like putting it all back on again. And so like I
Yeah.
had this unrealistic thing around like, oh, if I eat one donut, like I'm going to put on 30 kilos again. And then so I became really fearful to food. And then I started to over exercise, and then I developed anorexia. And so then I like stopped eating altogether for a couple of years,
That's so
and went on
fun.
this
How
journey.
old were you then when that occurred?
Oh, that was 15. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So
That's such
I
a
was
like
just,
crazy spectrum of experience to have, from like
mm,
from being, yeah, like I suppose like quite uncomfortable and overweight through to, yeah, like suffering anorexia.
yeah, it was, yeah, it was, yeah, quite a, you know, one end to the other. It was like quite
Mm.
intense. But yeah, I still vividly remember I used to go like lock myself in the laundry and like have to exercise for hours to like
Oh,
burn off anything, and I couldn't go to sleep until I'd done it. And then I became obsessed with like counting, and so I had to do like 1,000 sit-ups, or like
oh
a
my
thousand jogs
goodness.
on the spot. Yeah, otherwise something bad would happen, and I just attached to this like, oh, I'll just get really really overweight. And then again, I had this epiphany of looking into the future of, you know, I was started to isolate myself, and I wouldn't want to go and do things at people's houses or anything, or wouldn't go into social situation where I'd be forced to eat. And
Mm.
then I had this like, again, like looking into the future of like, imagine me having a family, or like, you know, being married, and then having to lock myself away in a laundry for like 2 hours while I exercise. That thought came into my head, and I was like, and then
Mm.
that's when I asked for help. I was like, oh, I don't want to be like this. This is consuming. This is, you know, I want to just be healthy, and I just want to be, you know, more in control. So then I went and seeked out help, and did yeah, when I was an outpatient to an eating disorder hospital in Sydney,
Mm.
and yeah, they helped me heal, and then yeah, but it did take like a good 5 or 6 years to really start to love myself and like my body, because it's not just around your food, it's around like, you know, you have such a self-loathing to yourself that and when you go into like a rehabilitation thing around an eating disorder, they success or like being better is based on the scales, on like the numbers on the scales. It's not actually your relationship to food or your body or yourself.
Oh, so they don't like, that's not really like, yeah, could you walk us through what's that like when you check into, like, even as an outpatient?
Yes. So you go and you have a counselor, like you have a social worker that you talk to, but it's more around like, and then they give you like little goals around like food and what you have to eat, and then like how much weight you need to put on, and so every time you walk in and like you get weighed, and so there's this like real focus on just the numbers, and then so it almost feels like, yeah, like you don't have to you know, like when you're classified as being better, it's like when you hit this certain weight, and then you don't have to come in as much. But then I was so petrified still when I was going that. Then I actually started taking like laxatives during that
Yeah.
process. Yeah, because I was like being forced to eat. And then was still so scared of like, yeah, putting on that weight. And then so then that was another 12 months of that. And then I went into I stopped. And again, it's like, whoa, this isn't healthy. Like, what am I doing? Like, I need to change this. But then again, I put on weight and I stopped like controlling my food as much, but it was still like they hadn't quite tapped into that, that self-worth of what comes with like that residual part of having an eating disorder, which I've worked with a lot of practitioners over the years to like really start to like tap into like that self-worth and that self-love around myself and everything. So I'd love to be able to, I don't know, do something around that for people that experience eating disorders, to make sure that that part of the whole process, that recovery and healing process, is really looked at. I think it's not, and maybe things have changed since I've been where I've been. Like there's the Butterfly Foundation that do a lot of work, so maybe they do more stuff around that. But just when I personally was getting treatment, they didn't really look at that.
Wow. Because it sounds quite, I suppose this is my like an outsider's perspective. I wouldn't say I had that much understanding of it all, but a little bit counterintuitive to be presenting someone with an eating disorder with scales constantly. And then because like I suppose it is important to understand if you're making progress or not, but I'd assume, and please correct me if I'm wrong, that like during that time when you were dealing with anorexia, like you were probably using scales a lot to maintain, like, so that's almost, it's like something you want to try to step away from, because like when you have a healthy, like true health is just how you feel, like and it's not really to do with,
not about a number.
No, it's not a number. And then it's a feeling, like, how do you feel when you get up in the morning? And but I found that interesting. Wow, thank you so much for being like so vulnerable and sharing that story with us, because I feel like that could really like help a lot of people hearing like your journey.
Thank you. It's I didn't know we were going to go there today. It just kind of flowed.
So just everyone for a bit of backline or whatever. So we had this idea of the podcast. Danielle came to me and she's like, "Do you want to do a podcast with me?" I'm like, yeah, that sounds great. And so we're both organized nerds. So we've recorded a whole heap of interviews, and then I'd been procrastinating so hard about editing the episodes because I had a bit of a limited belief about using GarageBand and like editing software. And anyways, I was like, I've got to get this done because the release date is impending. And then I listened back to ours and I stuffed up the audio. So this is like round 2. This is the second take.
And I feel this is a better take anyway. It made we went a lot deeper this one. So
it's cool how we can, I suppose, like, it's interesting you can have similar conversations or relatively the same conversation, but they morph or flow in different ways. It's just dealt like you based on a few questions, I think, or maybe I think interview skills.
Yes, exactly. Your expert interview skills have very enhanced since our first interview.
It was and I suppose like if you don't mind, if we can just stay like around your teenage years for a little bit longer. Just because I suppose like a lot of people could really connect with this, because like how does it feel when you're struggling with your weight, either like when you're feeling weighed down and maybe overweight, versus like in a state where you're constantly trying to lose weight, like someone who might be suffering from anorexia or bulimia?
So what was the question? Sorry.
How does it feel when, like, because like, is it a similar feeling? Like either because you suffered like, feeling overweight, then suffering with anorexia?
I mean, they're both quite similar in the fact that there was just this element of like sadness in all of it, like and just this, it was all, I felt like it was like if I had to put something to it, it was like this self-loathing of myself, you know, and it was just this emptiness and this feeling of not, oh, that's Baxter, my dog.
Baxter's like, I love you, Mum.
I love you, Mum. Yeah, and it was just like, I suppose I hated myself in both ends of the, like when I was overweight and then also when I was, you know, experiencing anorexia. Yeah, like I found journals a couple of years ago about the whole journey of it, and the negative self-talk in both the areas. It was like, oh my God, I wouldn't say this stuff to my worst enemy, of like the stuff that I was saying to myself.
Wow.
So yeah, they're quite similar in the darkness of them. Yeah, it wasn't fun. Definitely not fun.
Yeah, well, just because like I suppose you identify like the theme of self-loathing, like hopefully that's like a focus for foundations such as like the Butterfly Foundation, or people who are trying to help young people or anyone who's dealing with eating disorders, to like that's could potentially be like a place to start, like beginning to love yourself. Yeah.
And I think there's, you know, I think being in the age of social media had just kind of oh no, social media wasn't out then. No,
magazines.
That was early. Yeah. Magazines. Yeah, Dolly and Girlfriend. Dolly Doctor.
Oh my God.
Oh God. I learned so much in my teenage years from Dolly Doctor.
What's that?
Yeah, I think that there's still such a, you know, big thing around like perfect body image, and you know what is that, and I felt like I was so obsessed with trying to look a certain way, but then by the time I got to where I thought was like perfect, it wasn't good enough. So I kept moving the goalposts. And so like, oh, I'll be happy when I get to X amount on the scales, or I'll be happy when I fit into these jeans. And then it's like, you're constantly chasing this, but because you're so attached to this material goal, then you're never going to have the happiness, because it's a material goal, and it's like, and it's subjective and objective to a person. And so when you start to realize that, you know, happiness is from within, it's not whether you can fit into a pair of jeans. I mean, you know, you need to be a healthy weight and you need to be healthy to be able to function optimally and be well and have energy and things. But, you know, no one's body is perfect, you know, and there's, you know, some people have cellulite, some people, you know, a little bit top heavy, some people, you know, have scars, and it's, you know, there's so much like photoshopping in pictures and things, and I felt like that was a really big contributor to me going down the rabbit hole of anorexia and things, because there was this unrealistic expectation of trying to reach a particular way of looking. And, you know, me being a tall 6-foot person with like big hips, I'm not going to look like the size 0 model in one of the magazines. Like physically, I'll never be that size because my bone structure wouldn't allow me to have that. And so I think,
like, it's like, oh, like you're beautiful just how you are as well. Like, it's interesting though, how it like desire is created to like please someone, or like, or something, or be like something for someone else.
Yeah, and I think that's like, if we can connect into just happiness, you know, and loving ourselves, like that's been the biggest life lesson for me. And, you know, and I'm still learning it. Like I'm 36, and it's definitely my, you know, if I'm not looking after myself, my default is going back into the self, like, you know, not feeling great, you know, and so I think it's like a constant thing you have to work on. But if we can continue to remember that happiness comes from within, and it's our soul that is our, you know, who we are. It's not, this is our, like, I think it's Dr. Libby that refers to our body. It's our earth suit, you know. It's the vessel that we choose, our soul chooses to be in. and it's just a thing, but it's like the who we are is the essence of of life. So.
And you said you did like go through a journey. It took like a little bit longer from a place of self-loathing to a place of self-love. And how long did you feel that journey took, and what was a part of that? Like, how did you change and flip that way of conceiving yourself?
So I reckon, I feel like it was quite a long journey, to be honest. I don't think it was until the beginning of my 30s that I really started to actually love myself. Like, I'd say it and like think it and try and believe it, but I didn't actually embody it. And then it was just, through doing some sessions around like working with practitioners around mindset and, limiting beliefs, because I think, having an eating disorder, it's a trauma to your body and to your nervous system. And especially at that young age, you take on these beliefs. And so I think when you do go through some sort of trauma like that and experience that, you hold on to those. So it's important to delve into them and change those thought processes. And so, doing some sessions with some mindset coaches really helped me to actually embody and clear the trauma that was still in my nervous system and still in my body.
Yeah. Because interesting, like, the body really can like hold on to things we haven't dealt with or let go of.
Yeah.
Have you experienced that in some of your like dealings with that or healing, and
like that around the body?
Yeah, or just like things have come up from the past and you're like, oh, that's still there, but I got to let it go now.
Yeah, definitely. There'll be, even in like some breathing sessions, like thoughts will come up and you're like, whoa, and then you'll have like a bit of a body tremor. You're like, oh, I haven't thought about that in years, but clearly I've been holding on to that. So and then just, when you saying things out loud, I think is also a good way to release it, because then you kind of like release that energy. And so there's been certain mindset sessions that I've done with with facilitators, and when you say it out loud, you kind of hear it and you're like, oh, okay, I don't actually believe that. That sounds really weird. But like, my subconscious has been.
Give me an example of like, because I'm a bit confused what you mean.
Not off the top of my head.
Oh yeah, that's okay.
Sorry.
I like to think of as like, oh, like I'm bad at math.
Yeah. I'm trying to think of a specific example. I can't. I've got a brain freeze. Sorry.
It's all good. That's really cool though, and I'm really glad that you've like gone, like, you're in a really beautiful place with yourself, because you should love yourself. You're an incredible person.
Oh, thank you.
So kind. I suppose I feel like we're getting towards the end of our chat. Is there anything else you'd like to tell us about, or for us to go over or cover, share with the audience?
No, I feel like we've gone on a really full circle journey that the listeners will know a lot about me and my past.
No, thanks again for sharing. Really like respect and appreciate like how vulnerable you were. It's really beautiful.
Thank you.
So in true It's Glow Time fashion, we're going to finish off with our quick fire rapid questions. So question 1. If you could put a billboard anywhere in the world, where would it be and what would your message be?
Well, I've already mentioned my love of New York. So my billboard would be in Times Square in New York. New York. And then the message would just be love. Just a big fat love written on there, because that's what life is about. It always comes back to love. Well, for me, yeah.
What is your favorite quote you live by?
so I always used to hide my weirdness and my quirkiness, thinking I'll try and fit in and conform. But I'm a big dork, and I'm a big like, I laugh at dumb stuff. I make inappropriate comments, and I'm super quirky. And so one of these quotes from Maya Angelou, I love, and I've kind of got reintroduced to it recently as well. It's if you're always trying to be normal, you will never know how amazing you can be.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah.
I just read Flea's book and Dave Grohl's book, and they're just like, let your freak flag fly. Like,
I love that
too. They're just like, they felt like kind of weirdos and outsiders, and they're just like, let your freak flag fly, man. I'm like, yes, I love that.
Oh my God, I love that. I'm going to steal that one.
That's not as really eloquent cool as Maya, but
yeah.
Has a good, like, nice use of alliteration.
Yes.
I feel like this answer is going to be very obvious, but what's one game-changing tool you use to stay your glowiest?
Wim Hof method, especially the ice baths. I bloody love them. Like, yeah, it just keeps me real, keeps me centered, keeps me focused, and yeah, it's like you just can't hide from your shit in there. So that's one of the things I love.
That's so good. What do you want your life legacy to be?
Oh, life legacy. So my life legacy is to create a successful wellness brand that where people, like families, businesses, kids, can have access to information and resources. So regardless of, how much they earn or, where they are in the world. So making sure that I'm creating stuff that people can have education around their health and their wellness, and so that they can make changes to their life for the better, and then have the tools that they can have. And so that is by building some online content, running retreats, running some workshops, or contributing to some community events where people that can't afford things, we can put on some free events and things. And so that's the legacy that I want to leave. Yeah.
Oh, once more proving Danielle Smith is such a kind and lovely person. Okay, now the music themed quickfire questions. The first album you ever bought?
Oh, I'm pretty sure it was Tina Arena. Heaven Help My Heart.
Cool. Oh,
yeah.
She's got such a killer voice.
I won't bust out a tune because I am not as musically talented as you, Miss Danny T.
Oh, thank you. I do. I've been like looking at I should actually incorporate one of her songs into my cover set.
I really like. She's got really beautiful music.
Oh, she's amazing. Her voice is incredible. The first gig you ever went to, first live gig?
Matchbox 20, Rob Thomas. Yeah, loved it.
A tune and an artist that you're absolutely loving right now, and why?
I'm loving Tones and I at the moment. And I love that song, Fly Away.
Oh, yeah, it's such a good song.
I just love it. It's just such a cool tune. And then I had that on repeat. And then also Drake as well. I've been playing, what's the song? I've forgotten the name of the song.
I just immediately think Hotline Bling. You used to
call. No, it's not that. Yeah, no, it wasn't that one. But yeah, I can't remember the name of the song, but anything Drake really. And then also Mumford and Sons. I'm having a mind blank. I don't know the name of the song. Again, Mumford and Sons, awesome.
And if you could jump up and perform on stage with any artist, who would it be and why?
Well, I would love to jump on stage with Wim Hof and run a breathing session with him. That would
He
be my.
does play guitar too. So
He does play guitar, yeah. So maybe I can, play the drum or something, play with him. But yeah, I'd love to jump up on stage with him. That would be awesome.
Yeah,
really
that'd be
cool.
sick. It'll happen. Not
One
if,
day.
it's when.
When, yeah.
Oh, well, thank you so much for sharing with us this evening and allowing me to interview you.
You're welcome. Thanks for creating such a safe place for me to share my story.
Oh, so much love.
So much love for you.
I know, it's very difficult. Yeah, everyone, thank you so much for listening to the amazing Danielle Smith. Have a chat with us. Tell us all the wonderful and weird things about her. And yeah, we'll see you later.
Bye.
Bye.
If you loved what you heard today and want to hear more, then don't forget to head over to your chosen platform of choice and subscribe so you can hear more of It's Glow Time.